Hello. Good morning and namaste. And today we are on the second day of our webinar. We are starting the program. The resource person is present and the chair also is present. Yesterday it was a good day. And the inaugurator and the speaker, the resource persons, did an excellent performance, which was very beneficial to us. That was the feedback we received. We will be sharing the feedback perhaps on the last day. And today, two announcements. One, today we will not be sharing the feedback form in the WhatsApp groups. It will be shared only in the Zoom room and the YouTube platform and not in WhatsApp groups. And it will be there only for about maximum 10 to 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, we will be closing it. So please do fill the feedback form soon after the program and submit it. And perhaps some of you can even ask your questions directly to the speaker once he concludes his lecture. Okay, with these introductory announcements, we are going straight away to the program. And today we have Dr. Pushpam M with us, chairing the session. She was formerly the head of the Department of Sociology, University of Kerala, and associate professor of the department. She's a very wanted teacher of the campus, sought after, and her research is in the area of tribal studies. She's also a specialist in medicinal sociology, medical sociology, and today she will be chairing the session. I invite Dr. Pushpam to take charge of the program and take forward the proceedings of the day. Welcome to Dr. Pushpam.
Good morning, Manado. Respected Dr.
Excuse me, sir. Pushpa ma'am is not audible. Pushpa ma'am is not audible.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Are you audible?
Yeah. Now it's audible.
Okay. Say a warm good morning, one and all. Respected Dr. Anthony Palakal, our head of the department, and the organizing secretary of the international webinar, and distinguished professors, faculty members of the department, and other departments, and scholars, Happy to invite you one and all to the international webinar, the second day. So very happy to be here. So we hope you all are enjoying the yesterday section by Anidam ma'am. Today we have another section by Dr. M.S. Jayagumar. First of all, I welcome one and all, a warm welcome to one and all to this second day of the international webinar on the art of academic writings and public social research, publication of social research. And now we have one section taken by Dr. M.S. Jayagumar on the topic writing a synopsis. As we all are now, he is assistant professor and director of Center for Diaspora Studies, University of Kerala. He is a very good academician and also an administrator, particularly specialized in the field of migration and diasporic study. He was undertaking many research projects. More than 10 numbers of projects were conducted, and some of you are going on. And also he was published many research articles in national and international level, and he is as an organizer. He was organized many national and international conference and workshops. Moreover, he was an international figure, visited more than 5 countries like Japan, Canada, Singapore, and so on. So in this particular juncture, he was a very expert person, particularly in the field of migration and diasporic study. He is a permanent person for taking this session regarding how to write a synopsis. So you can enjoy. I wish all to enjoy this session. And on behalf of the Department of Sociology, IQAC, Researchers Union of University of Kerala, and those who are present here, I welcome you, sir, to this section. Now, hand over the section to Dr. M.S. Jayagumar for the lecture. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Pushpam. Thank you for introducing me. And also, I thank the organization secretary, Dr. Anthony Palikal, for extending this opportunity. And good warm welcome to all the participants. Today, I'm giving you a brief explanation of writing a research synopsis. Yesterday, we had wonderful session that is concerned with the details of writing research, and today we can discuss on writing a good research synopsis. So synopsis, everybody knows, synopsis is a plan. And why do we have a plan? Everybody know that planning is essential for realizing some kind of task. If it's a big task, we have to have a bigger meticulous planning. A small, lesser planning would be fine. Everybody goes for tour. Touring is many of our hobby. So what you just think of how we plan a tour, plan a travel. But usually when it comes to research, we are not many times. not much concerned about this, the significance of planning. Planning is very much essential. You just think about the construction of a house, a small building or a big building. Planning should be there. Without planning, there should be many drawbacks. So writing research is a very systematic and scientific activity. We all know that research is meant for creation of knowledge. We create knowledge, we make addition to the existing knowledge, and the activity is at the very same time art, and it's a art and scientific investigation. So we can see how the character of research and why a research synopsis or research plan, or what we usually say research proposal, is very much significant in your research, especially the people, many of you may be planning for research, and the research means many things for many people, but in the usually accepted way, it's an addition of knowledge, because why we do research is different for different people. Maybe part of everybody, the research is significantly is for career, for a better career, or getting into a new career, to be having an edge over others in the career. So that is the immediate reason for, and interesting reason may be there to get engaged till get something else. And so many things may be explanation for the doing research, but usually the crux of research is making something new, or creating something new, or adding something new to the existing stock of knowledge. So a researcher, what a researcher does have, or should have, a researcher should have imagination and the ability to observe. Whether it is scientific research or social research, the inquisitiveness, the curiosity to know something else, know about what we usually see, what we see across or around us. This curiosity is the base of research, because even if you go due to other reasons, your complete involvement in the process will be doubtful. So we have to cherish inquisitiveness in our mind. So, and there should be a lot of imagination, because we have to, it's not coming up. പറയുന്ന കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ട്, അപ്പൊ എന്നെ മാത്രമാണ് കാണുന്നത്. ഓക്കെ, okay. So apologies for the technical snag. So research is it's a scientific procedure. It adopts scientific procedure. That's what differentiates between research and a layman's perception. A layman may view things in a different way, and the researcher may view and perceive and approach things in an entirely different way, because he adapts and adopts research in the scientific methods, and he approaches in a systematic way to search for the knowledge. So here comes the significance of synopsis, because the plan is very, very important. That we should have a plan. So what are the details in a plan? And before that, we can see what are the major types of research. You may know, but just for as an introduction to the new people, maybe who are just looking into the possibility of doing a research. So exploratory research is there, and it's gained to familiarity to achieve new insights into a new field, because not much research has been done in many, because post-COVID situation, there are so many research come up about the nuances, the details of the effects of COVID-19 pandemic in various, because it has really struck the entire world. So there's an ample scope of entering into research. This kind of research we can say exploratory research, because we don't have much experience in the past. We don't have much literature on to rely on, to follow on. And other is descriptive research. Usually many people do this descriptive research. The aim is to describe the characteristics of a particular individual, a situation, group, or phenomena that surrounds it. And the surveys are most usually a part of this descriptive research. And here, as you know, the research has no control over the variable. He just understands and he describes it. He reports what have already done or what's going on. And analytical research is there. The researcher uses facts or information already available, and he analyzes them. Maybe, for example, political science students may be here. They would be using this analytical research. Diagnostic research, mostly in medical research, type of research, we follow the diagnostic research design, and then hypothesis testing research. We have the causality, how two variables are related, how one cause brings about some desired or undesired effect on the other one. But applied research, usually we all know, but just to remind you, all these are what you are actually in, or what you are going to be in the fray. And applied research for finding a solution. And pure basic and fundamental research, this is also, knowledge for knowledge's sake. That's why I started from the verb that the phrase that research is something addition to the existing knowledge or creation of new knowledge. And you might have heard of TIFR, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, because that's one of the rare cases in which the corporate sector funding for fundamental research is very unusual. Very rarely happens, because they are mostly interested in some kind of applied research. So that's why the significance of public funding for research, because otherwise the government and other government public sector institutions are the major funding agencies for research, especially for pure and fundamental research. And then what's a research synopsis? So as I told you, planning is essential for any task, but it is due to the limitations of time, limitations of time and resources. To achieve any objective, what we need is time. Our time is highly limited. A researcher usually gets usually 3 years, or maybe up to 4 or 5 years in other cases. But anyway, time is limited, and resources, various types of resources, financial resources, economic resources is there, and the human resource is also there. A researcher is investing his or her human resource in it. And due to this, that's why I ask you, I pointed that when you go out for a tour, we plan meticulously to constrain the expenditure within our limits, resource limits. So, and efficiency and precision. We have to, not only we have to achieve the objectives in the specified limit, time limit, and specified resource limit, but we have to do it in a most efficient way and the most precise way, sharper, finer way. So we know 5-year plans, we have building plans, best example for a planning, because it's a meticulous planning process. So is our research plan. So your research plan is very, very significant, but usually many people, they overlook. So this is your plan. So the plan, if the plan is better, your research output will be better. That describes in detail your study, what you are going to study, what are you going to study, and how you approach the study, and what could be the probable outcome, and how would you approach the issue, and all these, what means to gain the data for yourself. So all these details should be in the plan. Successful completion depends on the quality of plan, no doubt. If your plan is very high, of a high quality plan, your output will naturally be of a high quality. You can produce so much output from the commendable output. You can have high impact publication from your research, and it needs approval from the institutional review board, as you know, the local committee or other person, because there are several review boards depending on the type of research you are. If it's a research leading to PhD, the institutional review committee is there that stipulates some limits for, or some stipulation, make some stipulations for your research proposals that you have to go by. A research synopsis should have a proper plan in written. You may have grand ideas in your mind, but whatever the idea you have in your mind, you have to put it in black and white. That is very important, not just in the planning or in the synopsis, but anything. Research approaches. If you have a discussion with an expert, you have to note down what he is saying, because only when you put it right on a paper or a writing pad, the idea will be clear to you. Then only you will be able to think of and you enrich on it, reflect on it. So writing a research synopsis, both a science and art, it needs thinking process, it needs scientific approach, it needs the art of writing, articulation. It's a science based on, because it's based on scientific facts. It's not out of intuitions. It applies methods, scientifically established methods that differentiate us, you and the layman. And it is based on some logic, some reasons, and all this. You all know what positivism is, so I don't go much into. And it's an art as well. So it's a result of a thought process, imagination, and creativity. And articulate. Creativity means what we have to give to bring a new thing. If you want to bring out some new thing, you have to think of, you have to imagine. Your creativity should work on. And articulation, communication. Articulation doesn't mean that you have to use figurative language or something like that. Yesterday, our honorable Vice Chancellor has, in his inaugural speech, has shown that the English is not figurative or kind of literature like language is not necessary. Usually what we neglect is that simple present and simple past is mostly used in good scientific research, because it's simple and it's simply you report what you have observed and what is going on. So this is enough, but that should be in a very simple and a direct way. And what are the essentials? Essentials of a synopsis. The first three, if we differentiate or disintegrate, differentiate the essentials of a good plan into three major parts. The first one is the issue. What problem does your research address? Again, if you are in the, even as you have started your research, you can ask yourself, what actually is my problem? This is not a very simple thing. If you can try yourself, ask yourself what actually, because this is better before others ask you what actually you are doing. So what actually is my study? You have to imagine what actually is, because when you study a social process, that process, the entire process you cannot and you need not approach. You need not study the entire process. You may be studying a part of, a particular part of a process. So which part of that process I want to study, or I'm likely, I need to study, that you have to decide. You need not to study what are the causes and consequences of migration in Kerala. It's a big thing. Instead, you can compartmentalize this process into different pieces. And which part whenever you come shorter on your focus, the study would be more clear, more worthy. You will be making some more addition than some kind of generalizations. So that you might be very much clear about the issue you want to understand. And then the other most important thing, the second thing is the methodology. Here, other than how will the research achieve its objective? You are going to have a big research or a great research. So how the research achieves? How can I achieve my goals, my objectives, my aim? Realize my aim, realize my objectives. It would be the best way. To go to a particular place, to go to Mumbai, there may be several ways to go to Mumbai. But which way is the most effective and efficient way? That we have to choose. So methodology is very important. And the first and the third one is the benefit. Why we do that? What will be the research contribution? What's the addition? What's the new knowledge we create? And for this, many other things we discuss will be coming into the front. And the synopsis helps us in different ways. A synopsis makes you to outline the steps in your proposed research. It helps to carve out, to draw the clear sketch of your proposal. That gives more clarity. The steps, what are the steps you? It's a scientific procedure. It's a systematic. We have already discussed that. It's a systematic process. So how systematic it should be? What are the steps? Clear steps in our research, and it provides yourself with the intellectual context. You have to contextualize the study, but the context gives significance to study. For say, a particular thing, a particular phenomena that is very relevant in UP or Bihar may be insignificant in Kerala. Something that is significant in Kerala may be different. It may be insignificant maybe in Madhya Pradesh or Gujarat. So that context makes the problem or a particular topic significant. When the context changes, the significance may change. So we have to contextualize. What's the context of the study? What's the context that demands the study? And it makes you to be creative. So your creativity should be reflected in the what interesting way you approach a problem. Because you might see the duty of the researcher or a sociologist, especially or a social scientist, is to study what usually the other people don't see. Going for the latency, not for the manifestation. Manifestation anybody can make, but we have to go deep into the manifestations, what others usually do not pay attention. And the proposal justify your research. The proposal is the best document for justification of our research, because we have to justify research. And this justification is very, very important. You may underline that. Justification is very, very important thing, or in a sense, it's the base of your research, entire research process or entire thesis. You should justify each and every sentence. Each and every sentence in your research, in your thesis, should be justified. It should be justified either with the evidence, secondary evidence, or the primary evidence that you have, or the other data or information authentic. So that's why we usually say that when you write something, that should be properly referenced, properly cited. You should give reference just because you have to justify that. If you usually what happens is that we may take something from internet, and other sources are easily available, accessible, and we take many things and we don't put the where it is taken. We don't acknowledge. Non-acknowledgement means that that's our own. We claim that this is my own, but this is not. It's a question in research. The question of plagiarism comes to the fore. So justification is that you have to justify whatever statement you make in your study with your own data and your own experience, your own observation. You can say that it's my observation. Nobody may question it, but you have to say. It makes you to think about your experiments. So research is a thinking process as well, or it's mostly a thinking process. The research synopsis is the result and is the evidence that you have thought in a particular way. And it helps you anticipate potential problems. We have to anticipate the problems that we are going to face in our research. Those who are better in anticipating the problem will be in a better position. Other people will only realize the issues only when they meet with the issue. They are not able to anticipate the potential issues, the problems. So we have to anticipate what are the problems. In this aspect, discussion with the people who have gone sometime before, that would be beneficial. You can discuss the matter with somebody who have already done study in such kind of setting or such kind of problem. So discussion with experts and other experienced people is a great boon in research. So always do that. Always attend to the discussions and other presentations of other people so that we can understand what is going wrong with us and in much earlier. Otherwise, it's a costly affair. So, and we can also, it enables us to anticipate a realistic timetable. What would be the reasonable time my research needs? My research needs time may be different from your research, depending upon the nature, the field, the other characteristics, and other problems, other issues of the field. And other thing is that read before you write. Reading is very important, very, very important as writing your thesis. You have to start with the reading the instructions. When you apply for a university for your PhD position, you have to go into the web portal and download the documents and carefully read what instructions are given. If a particular institution says that the proposal or the plan or the synopsis should be in 10 pages, you should not cross it because they have a meaning for giving that stipulation. They may be valuing the proposal in that context, in that limitation. So we have to go by. Do not deviate from the guidelines and instructions. Completely follow because it's the derogative of the institution. It's the freedom of the institution to stipulate, and they will go by that. And when we go for funding, for external, this is highly stipulated and is highly observed. And conform to the given format, whatever format they're given, you may follow that. And the deadline is also that everybody knows. Most of you may already have enrolled in PhD or other research. And you need not need any appendices in addition to that because that is not needed usually in a synopsis. So these are the major headings of a title of a synopsis. And what I have put in red is not needed usually for a PhD research because it's for professional research for the funding agencies and other things. So title, and then introduction, then statement of the problem, review of literature, objectives, methodology, time frame, and expected outcome, very important, and references. So we can see title is very important. Title is not an easy thing. And I still remember that one of my professors told that when you frame a good title, good problem of research, the problem is reflected in title. And the 25% of your work is almost over, because you have well thought out, you have a very creative process, you have looked into all the aspects, and you have gone to the viability. Only then you can formulate a good title. Only then you will be able to formulate the research problem, and eventually that can be translated into a good title. The title should be concise. That should be small. As I won't say it should be small, but the better word is optimum size. It gives a sense of what you are investigating. It should convey what you are actually looking into. So when you go for a shorter title, that won't tell by itself. It won't be self-explanatory. And this title carries a lot of weight. As we say, first impression, the first reading, the first reading, the reader should to apprise that he should have an interest in this. Oh, it's a very good, it seems to be, at least, it seems to be, it sounds to be a good title. It would be a good thing. Oh, I think it is fine. It's very interesting. The researcher has looked into very detail, deeper into that problem, because usually other people don't pay attention to this kind. So that the first impression you have made, on that. And the reviewers have a lot of other things to do. Mostly the reviewers are busy with many other things. So we have to, in the first instance itself, we have to convey the idea that this is, we have to say that, the title should say that this is my title, this is a well-formulated title, this is a worth research worth title. It's a worthy title. This is very important. The title should tell itself to the reader that is very important. And they don't, the reviewers, they don't want to be mystified. So don't use amusing titles, like maybe the title of a film, or like the title of a fiction. And it should inform simply and efficiently. Very simple language. Not much complicated language should be. It should be unequivocal. Should not have a double meaning. It should have only one meaning to all the common people who read it. And we have to avoid too long and highly technical. It will not attract the attention of the reader. It should not be too short. When it becomes too short, it will not convey what actually we want to convey. Also, it should not be cute. Cute means confusing, maybe having several meanings. The different readers may have different meaning assigning to it. For example, the role of Kudumbashree is a community-based organization supported by the government of Kerala for eradication of poverty and empowerment of poor women. So the role of Kudumbashree in empowering poor women, it could be a simple and very simple and conveying title. Likewise, you can also go for simple titles. And in the introduction part, the problem is introduced. What is the problem we are going to deal with? And it will acquaint the reader to with the topic we are going to study. Because everybody need not, the reader, the reviewer, the others may not be acquainted with all the subjects. We don't know. Many people are specialists. When we go on the level above in research, you will be actually narrow down your research, your attention. So we may not be familiar with that. So we have to acquaint the reader with the topic. For it should be a brief and self-explanatory introduction that gives a better idea, clear and better idea to the topic we are going to. It should be short. Should not go extend up more than above the limit of 1 or 2 pages. And it should say the context of research. The contextualization is very important, as I told earlier. You can contextualize in a different way. That's your creativity, according to your creativity, your experience, your interest in that field, your ability to articulate. You can contextualize the problem. Maybe you can go by the global country state in this context, or you can also go in the same way, or along with that you can go for the chronology of the evolution of that particular phenomenon that you are going to approach. That anyway, it should help the readers to realize its relevance, because our task is to convince others, especially the reviewers, about the relevance of the topic. We are, throughout the synopsis, we are saying, without saying that this is a very important topic, this is a very important topic, it's a research-worthy topic. That tone should be there, reverberating across the synopsis in a covert manner, at least. So now the aspect of review of literature, and I must say that in my experience, review of literature is mostly, many times, is given the last say or last seat in research. Many times, and even if we do it, it's ritualistic. A research should have some review. So for review purpose, review for review's sake. But this is not exactly the case, because review is the foundation of our research. If the foundation is very strong, the research edifies. The research output will be very, very significant and very, very vast. And the knowledge you create will be really an addition to the existing knowledge, really a new knowledge. And how can you convince others that what I'm creating, what knowledge I'm creating is new, what I'm creating is what I'm creating is a real addition to what is actually existing? Only through the review of literature. So literature gives us an idea of what already have been made, what is already available, what is existing. And from that only we can make a step forward. So, and also that's the justification, that's the bare justification for our work. Why you go for this research? I go for research just because this is not much done. The literature I have gone through all the literature, and that says that this aspect is not studied. I have gone through all the literature available, and I understood that this methodology is never used to study this problem, because others have studied, but they used other methodology that I think this methodology is better than, more efficient than other. And I have gone through all the research, and I found that similar studies are there. That what we call replication. The similar studies are there. I have come across several studies in African context, but not in the Asian context, not in India, not in UP, not in Kerala or Tamil Nadu. That's why I tried this study. So this is your justification. For making this bare justification, what we have to do is nothing other than review of literature. What is already known on the topic. And only from that you can find a gap. It methodologies. What are the various methodologies so far applied? And doing the literature review is another funny thing. People do different way of apply different way. And many people do is book review. Book review is something different from literature review. So literature review, I must say that literature review is the most painful part of research because it takes a lot of pain, lot of time, lot of thinking process. Because the most two aspect of literature review is summarizing and synchronizing. We have to summarize. We have to read a lot of articles, a lot of books, other reports may be published or unpublished, and we have to read things painfully and meticulously, and then we have to summarize what Dr. Mishra has given in this article. We have to summarize in a few words. Previously, we used to use cards, and you write it, and then we synchronize. We put together the related things put together. Then only we can understand how many people have talked about, how many people have researched on a particular aspect of this topic. Only then we can say what is left out, what's the gap. So it's a very meticulous, it's a very painful, it needs a lot of perseverance. And mere quoting is taking some words from, maybe quoting, maybe verbatim quoting may be necessary because that's why we use in inverted quotation. That's a very different topic. I don't go much into how to do the review of literature in a systematic. But anyway, I kindly keep in mind two things. Summarizing and synchronizing is very important. And the other third point in literature reviews, that the comment of the reviewer, the researcher, you are the researcher, your voice should reflect through the review. It's not like a mosaic, putting some pictures, some papers put together and make a picture. Not like that. Your voice should go through. You have to compare things. You have to contribute things. You have to make the comment on. You have to appraise things. So the voice of the researcher should go along through the literature. So only then that becomes meaningful. For this, you have to have your application of your mind, creativity, thinking process, your dedication. So it makes a coherent, relevant, and easily readable knowledge. That's what is meant by a review of literature. It's not just going through, and especially today, as one professor has told me that Control C and Control V is there, so it's easy to make it. Control C copy and Control V paste. So it's not that. Sometimes we may take the quotation as such, but it's in unavoidable situations. But even for that, there's meticulous rules and regulations for that. But it is a coherent. The coherence means it should be well integrated. It should be relevant. It's easily readable, and even the selection of your material is relevant, very significant, because it should be up to date. You have to give importance to the update, what is available till date. And the selection of the time in the selection of the literature also may be relevant according to the topic of your research. And another thing in your research proposal, very important, and how many of you can do is usually the new researchers cannot. But anyway, kindly keep in your mind that your own previous work can be cited in the literature review. That give an addition to your and edge over others, because you are already in the field, you are already published. So there is no doubt over your intention to do research. That's justification. Say that you are a good researcher. And the methodology. the way to systematically approach, as I told you, that there are several ways to approach, to go to a place, to achieve an objective. But we select the most efficient, most economic, most easily, or maybe easily, maybe a confusing thing, but most efficient way, cost-effective way of realizing our dreams or our aims. And how to do scientifically, because research is a scientific process, so we cannot get away from the scientific methods. So, and this methodology is primarily it's an approach, the systematic approach that includes methods and techniques. Methods and techniques means the tools we use for collecting data, or methods we use for, that's also part of methodology, and it's not method. Sometimes may use methodology and methods interchangeably, but you have to differentiate between the two. And methodology, we apply the best way of studying the issue. So there will be several methods, several methodology available for you, like several methods. So you have to select the best methodology. For a simple example, if one of you are going to study a tribal community, and other person is going to have a study of the urban community. So the question is, which would be the most suitable, best methodology for studying this both? Then you will understand that the methodology that can be applied for studying an urban community may be quite irrelevant in studying a tribal community. That's what I say, that you have to think about the holistic way, what we are going to study, whom we are going to study, when we are going to study, how we are going to study, and what could be the probable outcome, because it's probable outcome. We cannot be 100% sure that the outcome will be like this, because that's left for. There's the possibility of something else, we may come across something very different. But anyway, we have to have an expectation of expected outcomes, at least we have to anticipate. And details of procedures, that I don't go much into the details, but this methodology is a very important part of Synopsis. It includes study design, which kind of design that we have explained, and study population or universe. That's very, very, very significant. We have to, and mostly I have observed many people that when we ask that the initial stage, when they come with the proposals, we ask who you are going to study about. Then they have to think a lot of time. Who? So we have to, in a simple way, we have to discuss, or we have to ask ourselves, who are our respondents? Are they able to give the data that we are going we are expecting to get? Are they able to? And another thing, will they give? There are so many sensitive issues in which the respondents may not give data. So this all, especially today, there are a lot of issues about the data. So data is in a knowledge society, data is very important. So people will doubt, even the common man will, that people come for data. What the use of the data? Will they sell this data for other purpose? So this kind of things are evolving out. So we have to think everything in advance. Otherwise, you will end up in a big problem. So we have to anticipate. We have to imagine. We have to imagine what are who are the subjects, who are the respondents, how can we approach them, will they give this data, and how to take the data, maybe in a sensitive issue. So we cannot say that sensitive issues should be avoided from the research. So we cannot say that, but we have to find a solution for that. For that, we have to think about, we have to anticipate many things. So that's why research idea or plan or synopsis is both a science, it's also an art, it's a process of a thinking process, it's a result of a thinking process. And then comes to sample, who will be the population, and sample size. For that, a statistician could help you if it is a quantitative survey. and otherwise you can, a lot of literature is available. You can read on what are the types of qualitative sampling, whether it is it is case study, single case study or multiple case study. And whatever be the, you have to even justify why I take 100 samples, why I take 200 samples, why I have 2,000 sample. Even if the number is higher, you should not say that or think that the size is already justified or the size justifies the sampling procedure. It's not like that. Even if it's 100 or 200 or 2,000, you have to justify why. Because research is a scientific process, and that's always should be justified. There should be a justification for whatever task we do in research. And size is a bargain between precision and price. Precision means the accuracy of the result, and price means the cost we have to bear. Maybe the human resource and the economic resource, time, all these. We have to find a fine balance between. As a researcher, as a PhD researcher or researcher leading to PhD, I just ask you to please kindly go for anticipating all these. How much time you want to finish your, and are you able to finish the study within this time? And what are the major problems I am going to face? Even if you fund yourself, or even if you are funded by UGC or other agencies, some money should be there, some resources should be there. So we have to plan. And sampling frame. Sampling frame means sampling, the list of sampling. So usually people don't pay much attention to this sampling frame, but this is very important when you go for the quantitative studies, because everybody says that my study is random sampling, my sampling is random sampling. I selected 200 with random sampling, I selected 500 with random sampling, but that itself may not help you in just fully justifying it. So how you selected? To select the random, you should have a list of samples. That is, sampling frame should be there. Best example of sampling frame is the Otters list. Electoral roll is the best example. But that should be there. Some kind of sampling frame should be there. So kindly keep in mind when you say that as my research is random sampling, you have to ensure that before the proposal, you have to have a groundwork, to have a pilot study, to have a primary understanding of the field, to check whether the primary data, primary list of the people is available. Only then you can, in a better way, say that sampling is a simple random sampling. And timeline. Timeline is very, very important to keep research in the correct order. It avoids dead time. There is a lot of possibility for deadlines, dead times, because so much time we are unable to do many things because we have to wait for something to be done. But that's mostly due to this the lack of meticulous planning. And we can see with the and you have to draw a timeline, a meticulous timeline. You have three years, for example. You have to divide 3 years by months. How many months you have to pay for literature review? How many months for preparation of tools? How many months for primary data collection, secondary data collection, analysis, writing? All this you have. Then you can subdivide this task by weeks. This kind of meticulous, this kind of clear-cut precision planning will give you greatly help you to avoid dead times. No time is, you can be ensured that no time is wasted. You can fully utilize this time. And yesterday, Dr. Anita Pillai, she has told us, don't waste your time. You should involve in something at least, especially during the initial time, or sometimes it is research is many times is boring. So don't do the things that bores you in a boring manner. So you can shift in between. You can and anyway ensure that you do not get away from doing research for long time. That will make the fatigue. So lot of problems. So you will be detached from that. So always try to be engaged in the research process. No problem, no problem. It may be in a very slow manner, no problem. But at the end of every week, you ensure that something is done. And I ask many of my students to keep a notebook, to write a daily log. And most of them have said that it's very useful. Daily log, daily log. You need not show me, you show yourself. Write a daily log. Today, I spent this time. On Monday, I spent 2 hours. Tuesday, I did not pay any time. So then you will understand that I am not paying much time or the desired time. So I am running out of time. So you will automatically come to the track. And the frame and work schedules, should be included the sequence of work of tasks, the anticipated duration for, and charts and diagrams will help you too. And you can use this kind of Gantt chart. This kind of chart is very useful. It's usually used by the professional researchers. They keep it in on their table, on their wall. To every day you'll see that, and you can see, and you can subdivide. You can make this kind of chart for your literature review for week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. Maybe the chart may be on a landscape and a lengthier one, but you can observe yourself. In the research, the problem is that many times we have to motivate ourselves. Others cannot help us. So that's the problem. In a competitive exam for civil service, other people will be there to motivate us. But research is a long process, 3 years or 4 years, and mostly maybe detached from your home, in the peer group, and so that a lot of factors are there. So you have to self-motivate. So this kind of techniques you can apply to keep you on track. And the evaluation, you can evaluate your own the proposals, and the others evaluate the proposals on this usually. Whether it is achievable, you may come with a grand idea to grand narrative or grand idea to the review community. But the review committee gives a simple question: how do you achieve this? Then there's a collapse. So every time you think of the practicability, down to your thinking is necessary for research, not for a kind of big imagination. Imagination is necessary, but you have to imagine how to practically conduct this research, not about grand research. And the covering many things or grand titles is not the reflection of a good research proposal. Good research is that is workable. That's workable. That's manageable. That's worthy. Workable, manageable. Because we have only three years, and I'm a human being, so limitations are there, and my resources are still limited. So within all these limitations, I have to produce a better appreciable research. So that's your limitation. You always stick on to that. Whether it is achievable, the achievability of the research is very significant. And especially the time we have to keep in mind. And the rationale for the proposed study is reasonable. Why we? The explanation, justification of the research, that should be conveying to the others. Others should also be convinced of the justification. Yes, there is a possibility of research. This is a worthy topic. This needs to be studied because there is a gap. So we have to convince others about the worth of the research, about the manageability of this. about the workability of the research, about the achievability of the research. The scientific design is described and adequately justified. The methodology is justified. This, yeah, the committee is convinced that this is, yes, this is a viable and best way of studying this problem. So we have to. And this is all some of the ideas I want to share with you while you are preparing for your research. And even those who have already prepared, you can replenish, you can strengthen your research proposal with some of these ideas if it is not already there. So with this, I conclude my talk. Screenshot.
Thank you, sir, for your excellent, vibrant presentation regarding the writing of synopsis or writing. Even the experienced researchers have also got valuable insight and a methodology. Thank you, sir.
Much audible. Pushpa ma'am, chat box.
Yeah, dear participants, you can ask your questions, clarifications directly to the presenter, Dr. M.S. Jayakumar. Now, it's your time.
Jayakumar sir, are you audible?
Yes, I'm audible.
Sir,
But some problem with the sound.
Okay.
Okay, continue. Okay.
Any questions, please?
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, you are audible. You are audible.
Sir, I'm Kalayasi from Tamil Nadu, Madurai, Kamaraj University, Madurai.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you adjust the volume, or because it's not clear about it? You are audible, but the clarity is.
Yeah.
Okay, continue, please.
Sir, your session is excellent.
Yes. Okay.
Very informative.
Please.
I have a question. You said about time frame. Can you give approximate months for each for review or analysis and data collection? Approximately, being a researcher.
Because there is a uniformly accepted, because each research has its own time frame. UG research in one institution may not be the same in other institutions. I know CDS usually research took 5 to 7 years in the previous time. Now it has come shorter. But anyway, usually it's as per the accepted norms in the universities, it's up to 3 years in the initial time, maybe extension up to. So that depends on, because we cannot say exactly, but and the size of the literature available in study for say in exploratory research, the literature would be very less. So we cannot spend we need not spend so much time. So much time in between. Taking into the gravity of the task, in some research, the field work needs more time. So then you have to allot more time for that. Less time for maybe in action research, less time for review, more time for field. And this kind of difference is there. But you can, that's why the researcher has, the researcher in the first instance, the researcher is the master of his own research. He has to or she has to acquire the mastery of his or her work. Even the guide is a guide. That giving directions and supervising whether she is sticking to the plan and giving maybe in the methodology some kind of assistance. But the time is dependent on many factors. The diligence of the researcher, the time the researcher spends on. For say a researcher, I know many researchers who are working day and night, like competitive exams. I know many researchers who don't work even daytime or even a particular 2 hours a day. So that depends on, but that should be allotted to. First of all, you have to appraise the gravity of the task. Analyze. You have to understand the task, the availability of literature. In some fields, literature would be very less. In some fields, literature will be very big quantity of literature will be there. So that researcher has to pay more attention for literature review. But in exploratory research, it's a new research in the new area, literature will be less. And we will say that in the literature, and towards the literature, end of the literature, there will be a comment. The scant availability of the literature shows that there is very lesser studies are available in the field. So that's the justification for my research. Why do you do this research? This is because this literature is less. So in that context, the researcher need not spend so much time for the review. But in some research, maybe some fields, the research may be, the previous work will be abundant literature will be available. So they have to spend, even if they screen and they select meticulously or wisely some literature, but even the availability is greater. So they have to give more time. So this the researcher can do, alone can understand the time allocation, but he has to. She has to do that. She has to fix. That's why research plan is very, very important, because appraising all this, she can plan well in advance how much time I should give on literature, how much time I should give on field work. For say, if it is a secondary data is based on secondary data, the field work is not there. For say you are studying based, your study is based on secondary data, census and NSSO. So you need not to wonder about collecting the data. Data is available instantly. But then you have to spend so much, maybe more time on analyzing the data, extracting the data, and analyzing data. So this differs from researcher to researcher to availability to literature and data, type of methodology, and resources available, and everything. Sometimes the researcher has to do by herself. Sometimes researcher can afford to employ help. In many studies, research help may be there, should be there. For field assistant may be there. Researcher may not be able to afford that cost. So the researcher have to personally do all the things. for recording and observing, sometimes some help may be there, may be necessary. So all these things you have to anticipate in advance. That's the relevance of research proposal. If you do that, your work will be smoother. You will not have dead time. You can completely utilize your time. You can economize your time. The time available, extra time available for one thing can be allotted to the other. So you can adjust your time schedule as such. That would be better, I think. We cannot have a uniform fit for all time frame. It is fits for it may be tailor made. The time and the ability and experience of the researcher is also the ability and experience of the researcher. If you are an experienced researcher, you need very less time. Okay.
Sir, I'm
Thank
Father.
you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, sir. Jaguma sir. I'm Father Anu. He recently in the screening. It was a wonderful session, especially the freshers like me. It is very insightful, and it was really an answer for many questions I had in my mind. And thank you. And I have a question. You said that review of literature is very important in the preparation of the proposal synopsis.
Yes.
And it's to recognize the gap, the context, and the relevance of the issue question I have when I prepare the synopsis. And especially the just quoting will not serve the purpose. No, we have to be careful about the plagiarism. And my question is, what all things we have to be attentive when we paraphrase something? Just not to copy it from and copy and making that C and V, control C and V. We have to be very careful in paraphrase.
Yes.
What are the things we need to be paraphrasing?
Your name, please.
I'm Father Anoop. We recently met in the screening.
Oh, yes, Father Anoop. Father, this is a completely big topic. Literature review is a topic is discussed to ours because it's seemingly it is often overlooked, but it needs so much time and patience to do research, review, literature review, and there's a lot to talk about literature review because there are widely accepted rules and norms to take verbatim adoption. If it is shorter, you can give it in the paragraph as such, and if it is in the larger size, it should be kept as a paragraph, a distinct paragraph, indent from the left. There are so many rules in different styles of review, different because that also depends on whether you apply the MLA style or APA style or other styles, Vancouver style. There are different styles of referencing and all these things. That depends on. But anyway, whenever we take an idea, because everybody has to kindly keep in mind, we are not just taking the literature, the words or sentences or paragraphs. We are actually taking the idea. We may take the idea of, I take idea of your idea, and then I change the words. I say the same thing that you have discussed in your published article, and I say in different words. You say in active words, and I I will change into passive words. That doesn't make a difference. That doesn't mean that I am contributing that. But the original idea is yours. So idea is taken. So I read and I quote your idea, not the words. I request you all to kindly forget that words and sentences and paragraphs. But keep in mind what idea. In research, what we are proposing is idea. Others publish is idea. We are creating is idea. Knowledge is idea. So this idea is patented. If I take your idea without acknowledging you, that's plagiarism. Even if I change the words. So verbatim is something else, because verbatim is many times necessary, because you have given an explanation of something in a very briefly and a very worthwhile sentence. And I find it changing that sentence would be actually, that will drain off the meaning, drain off the spirit of that, what you say. So I prefer to give it as such, but in double inverted comma, with quotation that the sentence belongs to Father Pereira. But in other ways, I summarize your idea, what you have discussed and found and presented in an article, in a high impact journal that's published. And I take that idea and I write that idea in my own way, and I have the freedom for that. But my freedom is only limited to that. Then I have to give in a citation, Pereira 2008. Because this idea is not mine. Somebody has told this idea just 10 years or 12 years back. And at the end of the thesis or the reports or the synopsis, I give the full reference. Pereira 2000, article name, journal name, year, paper, page number, ISSN, and all these numbers. Volume. So that's the courtesy. When I fail to do that, one thing that amounts to plagiarism, and in effect, I am saying that this is my idea. So whenever you do not give, that simply means you are claiming the authorship. But in research, claiming the authorship of an idea, not words and literature, just forget about the words, sentences, paragraphs, and all that is unwelcome. Whenever you take the idea, you have to kindly acknowledge that this idea is not mine. This is her idea. This is not mine.
Sir, I
has given this, but I take it. It's not Srirekha's own sentences, but my sentence. I summarized it. She has given in an article, she has explained all this. I read it, I understood it, I summarize it. And then I connect the article of Srilada and I connect that of Anna.
Jayamo, sir.
Srilada has, yes.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, we are received many questions from YouTube viewers. Can I ask one by one?
Okay.
So first one, Shivani, tell about something about the theoretical perspective and conceptual framework. Theoretical.
Okay. It's a very good question. Might be cut shorting. Okay, it's conceptual framework and theoretical framework is not always used, especially in exploratory research. Many times it's not there, but anyway, it's appreciable because we can approach a problem in a particular theoretical framework and also conceptual. That's closely related, but not the same. Conceptual, whatever the concepts we apply in research can be articulated or that put into a definite framework, and we can figure out the relationship in between. So that will give more clarification to our idea. Our ideas can be put into, for say, Kudumbashree helps empowerment of poor women. This is our study, how the Kudumbashree organization helps the poor women, rural poor women to be empowered. So then you can read and you can enrich it. Empowerment, what are the major indicators of empowerment that can be applied here? Is it education? Is it income? Is it community membership? Is it community engagement? We can say, we can think about the theory of social capital. Social capital as given by Robert Putnam or somebody else. Which theory suits here? For say, Putnam says about bridging capital and two types of capital. So whether this study can be conducted with that framework. So you can search for theories, you can review, along with the literature review, you will definitely come across theories. So select one or more theories that is relevant, that is suitable as a framework to study this issue. In all cases, it won't be sure, but you can check for the possibility of. Even if no theory is suitable in the first instance, you need not worry much about. You can create a theory. You are making knowledge. You are making knowledge. You are creating knowledge. You are making addition to the existing knowledge. So you can make a conceptual framework, and with the data, and with the information, and with the study, you can prove that your conceptual framework is what to be. It rises above the level of a hypothesis. Hypothesis means less than a theory. It becomes a theory. And unless and otherwise you or the other people comes later, they disprove your theory sustains.
Sir, another
question. Okay.
Question. How far critical discourse analysis helps to go ahead in research in language and linguistics?
That I am not able to say precisely, because that's a area distinct from my domain.
Another one.
Because there's a problem with the mix of.
There is any difference between hypothesis and assumption?
Hypothesis and assumptions are related but distinct. Assumptions, we can assume anything. Hypothesis, assumption based on non-facts, is based with an assumption with a strong base. We cannot assume anything. Our assumption should be logical, that should be reasonable, rational, and based on, supported by the existing knowledge. Because we are making an extension, offshoot of our existing knowledge. And that's an assumption, but that assumption has a probability of being proved. Probability of being proved and becoming a theory once it is proved. So it's not a baseless assumption, it's an assumption truly, but we can say a scientific assumption based on facts, established facts.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Okay. Sir, you are audible. Please.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Pradipta Ranjan Patnaik from Odisha.
Okay.
I want to ask Jaikumar sir regarding the null hypothesis. Sir, if a null hypothesis is formed expressly for the purpose of being rejected, why there is provision for null hypothesis then? Am I audible, sir?
Okay. But this is a tool. This hypothesis used in quantitative research. This is a basic assumption, but this is another area of explanation. That's another topic that I am not. But anyway, we have to differentiate between the two basic approaches that discussion is going on, never ending. Qualitative and quantitative approach, which is better, and that's I don't go much into. In qualitative research, the researcher has more freedom, because in qualitative hypothesis research, we don't apply hypothesis. Instead apply or we adopt research questions. Research questions give a freedom for the researcher Because in qualitative research, the freedom is necessary, and that's the essence of qualitative research. That there's a constant interaction between the data and the theory. The researcher is in the field, maybe staying on the field and writing his thesis and interacting with the data field. So every time he is going to the field and he's writing, and during the writing he has more insights, and then he verify in the field and he collect data accordingly, and then he writes. So there's a constant interaction between the data and writing. But in quantitative research, this is not, that's another approach. Here, once your tool is prepared, once your posterior or interior schedule, whatever, it is prepared, it's finalized, there is no change in the data. There's no change in the data. You go by, you forward, you advance with that the method, technique, and you collect data, and whatever data available, you work on that. That's why we today use qualitative and quantitative data together. That's what we call mixed methods. And here, whether the hypothesis is proved or disproved, that's not is the result that becomes established.
Sir,
but the peculiarity is that when we give hypothesis, even not necessarily, Blakey in his book 2002, he says that even in quantitative research, hypothesis need not be. That's his argument. But anyway, there's differences across different authors. But anyway, hypothesis gives a clear point. Maybe we will be looking at maybe the soldiers, when they shoot, they will look into a small hole, and there will be a bullseye there. So we can compare hypothesis with that bullseye, because that soldier is only aiming at that bullseye. But this qualitative data is not like that. The qualitative researcher may apply other things, because there's no bullseye. So nothing to aim at that particularly. So he has freedom to move around, and in that process he may sometimes get something bonus, something that he never anticipated. He has the freedom for that. But in qualitative research, quantitative research, that freedom is not there, because hypothesis gives direction, clear-cut precision and direction in research.
Sir,
okay.
Sir, one question received from Anu. Is there any difference between research proposal and synopsis?
Usually this is the same, because it can be maybe the crux of the research after the end of the research. We also use the term synopsis. And what have you done? Because when you go for the open defense, we present is the synopsis, what we have already. But that's the plan, what we have actualized at the end of the research. One is future tense, the other is past tense.
Sir, I am Nita from IQAC. Sorry. First of all, I wish to thanking you for a very informative session. I wish to know that how can we organize the literature review?
Organization of literature review, I will cite an example. Is an example of. I have pointed out that this is the imagination of the researcher. That's why I say that research is an art and science. The researcher should have a lot of imagination, and the presentation of the reviewed work is it's largely influenced by, or yes, decided by the imagination of the researcher and experience as well, because an experienced person may review in a better way than the not so experienced one. So it's very interesting. And recently I had a work that's related to ICT and family, a transnational family. That for that book, the review was very extensive and very, very nicely constructed. Presented review was there, and it's a bigger review. And that review says that the evolution of ICT at the global context in India and Kerala on the one side, and the evolution of communication among the transnational families from India. That's at the very same time cross-sectional and longitudinal. Chronological is also included. That's a better blend of things. But going through that literature, a reader gets almost a complete picture of the history of internet ICT communication, ICT-based communication, and what's the current situation, and how it affects the transgender family so far. So, and not only that, very important aspect is that the tool prepared was so extensive, because the tool is prepared with the input of that review. So why there's a vast input we got from that literature review. So is the end result of that tool. So the massive data we have. Yeah. So that if you do the literature review, that will be food for thought, and that will be input for your research tool. That will definitely reflected on your research. That's the result of that. That's the better worth of that research. In addition to finding the gap and making the foundation.
Dr. Jayagumar. Dr. Jayagumar.
Okay.
Hello, Dr. Jayagumar. Yes, I think your section lecture was so thought-provoking. You know, it has evoked several questions, you know, in the participants. So there are several people in the queue wanting to ask questions. So shall we, if we can limit your response to maybe, you know, half a minute to 1 minute, we can take number of questions.
Okay.
There are several in the queue. Yes. So those who want to ask any more question, please unmute yourself and please ask.
One more. Some few questions also I can.
Sir, I am Preeta, research scholar from Vimla College, Thrissur, Social Work Department. So I have a doubt with regard to the literature review part again. Usually I have seen in the literature review, we write about the theoretical framework and then we go to the studies part, like various studies on that particular theme-wise. So, at the same time, I have seen research studies where the literature review, they have separate section for the theoretical framework where various theorists have given their points, and then they have a separate section for the studies part. So which one is more appropriate and how to do it, like that separation?
That's also according to the freedom of the researcher, because both are significant, because methodology review of methods and review of findings is also, both are relevant, and how you present is, you have the freedom to do that, because in a separate way it will be fine. Sometimes we cannot separate it, sometimes both come along with. So you can also try the way of thematically arrange this, thematic arrangement of literature view, that in that theme that theory and findings may be coming along with. That's no problem. But anyway, you will be talking. The most important thing I cited is that your voice would be there on the literature.
Okay.
Connecting or comparing and evaluating, describing, assessing. Your voice should run along with the literature, and the thematic review would be fine, because even if this both theory and the finding part may be sometimes closely related.
Yes.
So thematic would be fine, because the thematic review, that is the systematic and thematic review, only help us to understand things in a better, coherent and comprehensive way. That's the purpose of literature review. That's why I pointed in the morning, the earlier part, that many people do book review. Book review gives us, if you go for 100 book reviews, I will say that 100 people said 100 things. We won't get the idea of how many people have contributed to this particular aspect of this particular problem. Only then we can think that there is some point, or there is something, or more issues that left out, that people have not paid attention. We should have, this is the purpose of, only then we can arrive at a conclusion that there's a research gap. In book review, we are not able to find the gap. We cannot say that what is missing. What's the extension that is necessary? What offshoot we can expect from this review? So thematic review would be, the thematic review is not a very big thing. You can collect 2 or literature and you can start with the theme or assumptions. For say, if it's empowerment of poor women, you can say empowerment, maybe theoretical. And then you can say education empowerment. Anyway, you in the first reading, you understand that empowerment is a process which is happening, and education, income, and decision-making power, these are the major indicators. So you can start with these indicators. You can change it later on. You can make additions. And within that one theme, you can evolve sub-themes. Within education, you can find out so many literature coming, literature and informal education, empowerment and informal education and empowerment. So within the theme, you open a new theme, that informal education and informal training and empowerment.
Sir, another,
yes.
Okay. Sir, another question. Emma, sir?
Yes.
Sir, another question. How to cope with research design when data is heterogeneous population?
That's a big issue. Cannot be, because heterogeneity is a big question, because the size of the data, if you go for the sampling and all this, that heterogeneity is a big question. So so how to address this heterogeneity is that you have to work out, or you can go for homogenization. Only with homogenization we can have a better result. And the sampling is also related to the homogeneity. So from this is also a relevant point, because when we go for the topic of the research, we have to go for. That's why I told you that instead of going for grand ideas, you have to come down, narrow down to a small point. And after all, research is all about, not about big things. Research means, one of the primary principles is that knowing more about less and less. Knowing more and more about less and less. If you succeed in finding out a very small topic, that's better. You to know more and more about this small thing. So your focus should be very small. For example, everybody talk about the grand idea of empowerment of women, empowerment and Kerala. And one girl from Netherlands, so she came in Kerala to study. It's a different aspect, a small aspect of mobility. The social, not the spatial mobility of women in immigrant households. Spatial mobility of, so this is interesting. So you have to think this way. The spatial mobility as an indicator of empowerment. What is spatial mobility? In immigrant households, especially in Malabar, in immigrant households, the women are left behind. The males are abroad, women. So does this, how this migration of males has resulted in the spatial mobility, not social mobility, spatial mobility. Do the women have the freedom to go out of their house? One, if they have the freedom, how far? For how many kilometers they can, without a court, without a companion? Do they have freedom to go out without companion? Do they have freedom to go out in odd times or after evening? Do they have such kind of freedom? Do they have the freedom to drive? Do they have freedom to go for particular things, for school? For example, a person, a woman going out of house for to the school may not have the freedom to go to the bank. It's very interesting. So this kind of, this is a very small focus, but what's coming out is big mind-blowing ideas. So this is, whenever you select a topic, don't go for big things, but go for very small, like what you use in a funnel.
One minute.
Pinpoint a particular issue that will be manageable, that will be workable, that will be worthy. That will be.
Please mute your microphone. Sir?
Okay.
Sir, another question. What should be the time period for picking the literature?
That's I have already pointed out, because that depends on, because you can because maybe the first 6 months you can, but many times, sometimes literature review may be going as a continuous process up to the that question. The problem is that in qualitative research that may not make much problem, because there's a possibility of changing and making additions even up to the last moment of the research. But in quantitative research, once the tool is prepared, there is no freedom. So we have to limit many things. There are many compromises in research. So the limitations also should be addressed in your research idea or proposal. You have to anticipate the limitations and inclusion exclusion criteria, because I don't go much into the details, so because it all comes within the methodology. You have to give the first of all, you have to keep in mind that you cannot take everything into your thesis, and you need not to do that. You have to exclude many things. You have to avoid many things. You have to select something. You have to avoid something. So inclusion exclusion criteria, usually that's not clearly written in social research, but in medical research and in other research, scientific research, inclusion exclusion criteria is very important. Without practically there's no research proposal or research without this criteria. So what are you including in your study? What are you excluding? That's clearly listed out. So that would be beneficial. You cannot, research is not including everything. A research that includes everything will be the worst research, I must say. That's the bad or worst research. The research that includes everything on your topic. And usually what we see that the researchers are preoccupied with. Once they catch up a particular topic, they are not able to, they are unwilling to leave anything. But on the other side, they are pitiably, they cannot do everything. So you have to make a decisive decision, a critical decision, that you have to avoid something with a justification, and we have to include something with a justification. Why I excluded all these things? I excluded this and this and this based on this, due to this, and I included only this and this. And this only is very important. You have to avoid those sort of things. That includes many things will be a worst. That's maybe a bad research. A research that is focusing on a particular aspect is a best research. So for say, for example, people may migrate from Kerala or in India to abroad. These people maybe have some problem in the destination, maybe in the Gulf. And due to the problem, some people come back. And the people who come back face some problem here. So what is your research? You have to decide your research. Is it the process of research what to go? Or what's the problem they face in the destination? Or what are the problems they push them to come back, COVID or something else, or some the problems are happening there. Indigenization policy is happening there. So what's the effect of indigenization policy to bring back the people to Kerala? Is it your problem? Or some people have already come back, and what do they face here? Is it your problem? You cannot study all this. You have to decide which is your problem. And you have to avoid all others. So say inclusion and exclusion with your own justification. Then that will be, if you split or focus on a particular very specific aspect that usually unnoticed by other people, that's a good research. Rather than grand idea or a blanket topic never fetch you to anywhere. It never take you anywhere because that's blanket. You cannot even figure out what are the most important point of your research because you're unable, because your attention is distributed. It's like an abstract. It's not clear.
Okay, sir.
Opaque. Okay.
Okay. We will wind up this session. Session. Now I invite Sharanya Soman, Research Scholar, Department of Commerce, and Vice Chairman, Kerala University Research Students Union, for proposing formal vote of thanks for this session. Now over to Sharanya.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Honorable dignitaries, distinguished guests, and dear participants connected online. I, Sharanya Soman, Vice Chairperson of Researchers Students Union and Research Scholar of Department of Commerce, feel immense pleasure to take this opportunity to propose vote of thanks on behalf of Department of Sociology, Research Students Union, and IQAC University of Kerala, and my own behalf to our eminent speaker, Dr. M.S. Jaykumar, Assistant Professor, Department of Sociology, for such a wonderful and informative session on synopsis writing. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Dr. M.S. Jaykumar sir for his work. I also wish to express my gratitude to Dr. Anthony Palakal, Head of the Department of Sociology and Organizing Secretary of this webinar. My deep sense of appreciation and thanks to all the participants who choose to be live with us and attended the webinar. My sincere gratitude also goes to the organizing team for taking such relevant topics. Once again, I thank you all for being with us this morning. Have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharanya. Thank you once again for one and all, for all the participants. Thank you for your live interaction with our resource person. Thank you.
So we will meet again tomorrow at the same time, 10 o'clock, for the third day's program. And once again, on behalf of the organizing team, I wish to extend a very, very hearty gratitude and appreciation to all those who participated in today's program, and particularly the speaker of the day, who gave a wonderful session on writing synopsis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.